In 2006, two teenagers from Sacramento posted a video of them lip-syncing the Pokemon theme song. Within weeks, it was the most viewed video on YouTube. By 2012, Smosh was the most subscribed channel on the entire platform, not in a category, on the entire platform. And today, they're still here, still uploading, still getting millions of views and subscribers. And somehow, that's the most depressing part of this whole story. And that's because Smosh didn't die. It just became something that has Ian and Anthony's names attached to it. And at some point, those stopped meaning the same thing. This is the story of how Smosh survived everything and lost itself in the process. Before we get into the collapse, you need to understand what Smosh was. Because if you're under 20, you probably don't fully get it. Ian Cox, and Anthony Padilla weren't just YouTubers, they were the blueprint. The format they invented, dumb premise, escalating chaos, comedic violence, no fourth wall, basically defined what YouTube comedy looked like for an entire generation. Smosh was to YouTube what Saturday Night Live was to late night television. It set the course that everyone else copied. And the numbers back this up too. At their peak, they had the #1 most subscribed channel on YouTube, twice. Over 5 billion total views. A spin-off channel, Smosh Games, that itself had millions of subscribers. And a feature film. No, like an actual feature film in theaters. And none of it felt corporate. That's the thing that people forget. Early Smosh felt like two genuine friends making videos for the fun of it. The charm wasn't the production value. It was quite the opposite. It was Ian getting hit by his car in his driveway. It was Anthony screaming into a camera for 30 seconds. It was utterly, completely, unashamedly dumb. The rawness is what people loved. And that was the first thing that disappeared. Now, the problem started before most people noticed them. Around 2011 to 2012, when Smosh's numbers went parabolic, they got picked up by Alloy Digital, later renamed Define Media. And this is where things get interesting, because Defy Media is the villain of the story, but not in the way that most people frame it. See, the common narrative is corporate bad, killed Smosh, and yeah, that's true. Defy Media did eventually implode catastrophically, but the real damage they did to Smosh wasn't the shutdown, it was earlier, it was more subtle. When Smosh got corporate backing, the content started changing in small ways. More series, more spin-offs, Smosh Games, Smosh Pit, El Smosh, a full cast of rotating Smosh members who weren't Ian and Anthony. Now, on paper, this makes sense. You're trying to build a media company, you need more content, you need to scale. But here's the thing that nobody in the boardroom understood. People didn't subscribe to Smosh, they subscribed to Ian and Anthony. The channel was always parasocial first, brand second. The second you start to dilute that with other faces, other formats, other content, you're not expanding Smosh, you're replacing it. The audience felt it before they could even explain it. The comments changed. The view counts on non-Ian and Anthony content were even lower. People kept asking, where's Anthony, when Anthony was right there. The soul was slowly leaking out. And Defy Media kept pumping more content into the hole. Then, in June of 2017, Anthony Padilla posted a video called I'm Leaving Smosh, and YouTube broke a little bit. And not because people were shocked. Honestly, looking back, the writing was on the wall, but it was because of what Anthony said in the video. He talked about losing creative control, about the channel becoming a business first and a creative outlet second, about feeling like Smosh had become something he couldn't recognize anymore. Now, he didn't throw Ian under the bus, he didn't name names, but reading between the lines, it was clear. Defy Media had made Smosh into a content factory, and Anthony didn't want to work in a factory. Now, here's where I want to make a point that I don't think gets made enough. Ian staying was the braver choice, and one that actually cost him more. Anthony left and immediately started thriving. His solo channel took off, and he started doing the I spent the day with style of content, and people loved that. He got to rebuild his identity on his own terms. Ian stayed. Ian kept the lights on. Ian kept uploading with a rotating cast of people while the entire internet wrote the eulogy for a channel he was still running. That had to have been brutal. You're holding on to something that the internet has already decided is dead, while your best friend and creative partner is out there getting praised for leaving it. And then it got worse. In November 2018, Defy Media shut down overnight without warning. Creators across the network, not just Smosh, but dozens of channels, woke up to find their contracts voided, their revenue streams cut off, and in many cases, money they were owed simply gone. For Smosh specifically, this meant the entire operation. The staff, the production team, the Smosh Games crew suddenly had no company behind them. Now, Ian talked about this publicly. He found out through the internet, just like everyone else. The people who worked at Smosh found out they didn't have jobs anymore through the internet. This is the moment where Smosh, by all logic, should have ended. Instead, something kind of remarkable happened. Rhett and Link of Good Mythical Morning swooped in and acquired Smosh through their company Mythical Entertainment. They kept most of the staff, and they kept the company alive. And the internet kind of cheered. It felt like a rescue, and look, maybe it was. But I think the rescue is where the transformation completed. Because now, see, Smosh wasn't just a content brand. It was an acquired asset. It had a new parent company with its own identity, its own priorities, and its own content strategy. Ian was still there, but he was now an employee of Mythical in a way he'd never been an employee of anything. Smosh had survived, but what survived wasn't really Smosh. Let me be clear about something before I get into this part. The people at Smosh today seem genuinely talented. The cast they built is funny. The production quality is miles beyond what it was in 2006, and the channel's at 40 million subscribers. But when was the last time anybody talked about Smosh? When was the last time a Smosh video was a cultural event? When it got referenced, shared, quoted, when even non-fans knew what it was. The food battles were cultural events. The Assassin's Creed videos were cultural events. The Pokemon video was literally the most watched video on YouTube. Today, Smosh releases content consistently, professionally, and into a complete void of cultural relevance. And I think the reason is something that can't be fixed with bigger production or a better cast. The original emotional contract is broken. Holy shit, that's a fucking bar. People watched early Smosh because they felt like they were watching their friends. Ian and Anthony felt like their guys. Chaotic, genuine, unpolished. The whole appeal was that it shouldn't work, and it did. That feeling is almost completely gone. And it didn't go because of any one decision or one scandal. It went slowly, through 1,000 small decisions, made mostly by people in suits who didn't understand what they were scaling was actually intimacy. You can't scale intimacy. You can only dilute it. So here's what I want to leave you with. Smosh is a ghost story, but not the kind where something died. It's the kind where something is still walking around, not realizing it's gone. The channel exists. The subscriber count exists. Ian Hecox is still in the videos. Technically, Smosh is fine. But the thing that made people care, that made two teenagers the most watched people on the internet, that made 12-year-olds, quote, shut up in 2009 to each other in the school hallways. That thing didn't survive the corporate acquisition. It didn't survive the Anthony split. It didn't survive Defy Media. It didn't survive Mythical Entertainment. It survived exactly as long as it was two stupid friends making videos for fun. And the lesson, if there is one, isn't that YouTube eats its own, or that corporations ruin everything, although those are true. The lesson is the rarest thing in online media isn't talent or consistency or quality. It's authenticity that stays authentic when money shows up. Smosh had that for a while, and then the money showed up. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Consider subscribing or watching another video. Have a great day, guys.